Hello there, I'm back. So here's Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, looking into the lunations to share with you some powerful insights to navigate these energies. So let's talk about the new moon. So the first new moon after the powerful eclipse season of March. So this new moon will happen on the 27th of April. So 27th of April at 7 degrees Taurus. So we're already in Taurus season when this new moon happens. So as usual, there are a few things that I want to share with you. I want to call your attention to best use these energies. I mean, the new moon is the beginning of a new cycle. It brings with itself fresh energies, a fresh perspective, and the potential to just reset and really start things anew. So, like I said, as the first one after the eclipse season, an eclipse season can be a long-lasting kind of energy and intensity as well. So we might still be feeling it for another 6 months, but step by step, we're kind of integrating some of the things that came up during the eclipse season in March. So I personally experienced a very, very powerful and disruptive month in March. So I'm definitely gonna take a ride with this new moon to set some intentions for a little bit more stability. And that's the power of Taurus, right? One of the big flavors that Taurus has a connection and resonates with is this stability, groundedness, patience, etc. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And obviously, as usual, I want to point out to some of the aspects that this new moon is making to other planets as well, which in fact does kind of, has a bit of an intensity to it as well. And I think it makes sense after such an intense eclipse season that we will experience a new cycle that's still carrying some of that intensity with itself, right? Life is a process, and astrology can show us that very strongly as well, how things are interconnected in that process. Like Liz Green used to say, nobody wakes up on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. with Saturn on their ascendant. Something was already happening before that. So this new moon is a continuation of that intensity. So we will look into some of these aspects, but we will also look into the Sabin symbol. I think the Sabin symbol for this new moon is quite fitting to some of the ideas that I had looking at the chart for the new moon. So the Sabin symbol is a sleigh on a land uncovered by snow. So very simple. So picture that, a sleigh on a land uncovered by snow. So I'm not saying covered, I'm saying uncovered. So there's no snow on site, but we have a sleigh there. So that's interesting. And that's very interesting for a new moon in Taurus as well, right? So after a new moon eclipse in Aries, which is cardinal fire, is very fast, is very fiery and impulsive, very speedy energy. We move on to the new moon in Taurus, which is very slow. It's almost the opposite of that energy of Aries. Yes, so we go from cardinal fire, very, very impulsive Aries, to fixed earth. So we go into a very stubborn, very fixed, very patient, very slow-paced energy. So for me, that sleigh on a land uncovered by snow kind of give me that feeling of like, right, things are not going to be moving as fast as we want it to. They will be picking up, because we do have all of the planets going direct. We had Mars going retrograde in December. Then we had Mercury and Venus going retrograde. So now everything is going direct. But still, this new moon is in Taurus. So the energy of Taurus is still very slow, very patient, very steadfast. But if there's something that Taurus or Taurians and people that have a lot of Taurus don't appreciate, is people pushing them to go faster, to get out of their own timings, their own rhythms. So rhythm is very important for Taurus, and doing things slowly is really important for Taurus. So they make sure they do things correctly and they feel comfortable with that pace. So I really feel that sleigh on a land uncovered by snow cannot move very fast. It cannot move almost at all. I mean, we can drag it along, but it has a bit of a discomfort associated to that imagery, I think. So perhaps things won't go as fast as we wanted during this new moon cycle, or that might be a struggle here with moving. And this is something that the rest of the aspects are also reflecting to us, right? So what do I want to talk about and focus mainly is that this new moon, so the sun and the moon meeting together at 7 degrees Taurus, are both forming a square to, on one end, Mars. So Mars is at 4 degrees Leo, so Mars is in Leo already, forming a square to that sun moon. And Mars in Leo wants to be expressive, wants to be creative, is also a fire sign, so it's a lot about self-expression here. That new moon is talking about security, right? Setting new intentions, planting new seeds connected to groundedness, security, building something from scratch that will later give us fruits. But Mars in Leo won't have it. Mars in Leo wants to be creative, wants to be in touch with the inner child. At times, Mars in Leo is connected to immediate gratification. I think all of the fire signs have a little bit of that. It's not denied gratification or slow to get the gratification, which would be the earth signs. It's more about immediacy. And on the other end, the other planet that's forming a square to this new moon is Pluto. So we've got Pluto in Aquarius, opposite Mars in Leo, is square to the new moon in Taurus. So whenever Pluto is involved in a lunation, in a transit in our birth charts, things get intense. Things get intensified. Let's put it that way. So this new moon cycle is still intense. But as usual, when we look at a T-square, when we look at two planets forming an opposition, and then both of them forming a square 90 degrees to another, the way out of that duality is the planet that's forming a square. And in this case, is the sun and the moon in Taurus. So we have a little bit of a reinforcement here of the flavors that Taurus represent. So I want to break down a little bit. So on one hand, some of the themes and the topics that this T-square can bring up to us and this new moon cycle can bring up to us are willpower, any issues around willpower, anger, any issues around anger, if we express it too much, if we express it too little, if we've been bottling up, rage, all of that is also there for us. And assertiveness, issues around assertiveness. Can we be assertive? Can we not? Do we prioritize the group and what other people think of us rather than what we actually really feel? Some of those things will be there. And so if we break it down through these planets and these signs as well, we have on one hand Aquarius and community. values that are connected to the group, right? A group mentality as well. And in a shadow sense, that could be mob mentality. That's Pluto in Aquarius as well. So group, community, friends, and like-minded people as well. That's Aquarius. People that think alike, that value similar things to us, etc. So this is one end of this T-square. On the other end, we've got Leo, self-expression, individuation, creativity, specialness. And on the shadow side, ego, right? Getting our egos bruised or bruising someone else's ego. And then as an apex for this T-square, as I've mentioned, some of the things that can help us navigate this lunar cycle, which would be stability, groundedness, patience, steadfastness, but mostly and foremost, getting in touch with our values. Again, we talked about that with the full moon in Libra, but that's also important here with this new moon in Taurus. Values, values, values. What are your core values? How do you want to build your life around them? In particular during this challenging, intense month with that T-square with Pluto and Mars. That's what's going to help us navigate conflict. That's what's going to help us get out of conflict or assert ourselves in situations that we need to be more assertive. This is all connected to core values, right? So this promises to be a very transformative lunar cycle, because the next moon, the next full moon, or the combination from this new moon, will be a full moon in Scorpio. So we're going to have a full moon in Scorpio in opposition to Uranus. So things will be shaken up. So the ground will be shaken up a little. But we need to focus on what our values are and how can we build a stability and groundedness based on those values, feeding those values, right? So that's it. I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I hope you have a wonderful new moon and that you can set some powerful intentions for this lunar cycle. So take care, and I will be speaking to you all very soon.